Welcome back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jai Picks. The other half of the show, the parlay, joining me in to recap some UFC 292. Let's get into this. Another big pay-per-view. What a way to end the night, too. 12 fights in total. Sean O'Malley getting the bantamweight strap around him at the end of the night. Knocks out Aljamain Sterling in the second round. And what a night it was. There were some interesting judges' scorecards, as always, seems like nowadays. The two title fights, one was completely one-sided. The other one, we had the big knockout. Overall, a solid card, I would say, from a viewing perspective. If you're looking at the double leg premium results, I ended up 1.26 units. Sean O'Malley put me over into the positive at the end of the day. Started off super hot, had a little cold streak there. Big loser was Ian Machado Gary. For me, that was the one that I was most upset about because just the way that he fought. We can talk about that later, but what'd you think of the card? How'd it go for you?
Yeah, I thought it was a good card. The prelims were fun. The main card, we didn't get all the finishes we wanted, but at the end of the day, we saw some good fights, good performances, some dominant performances. And as far as the premium plays, I was down minus 1.5 units, so barely in the red. But it's frustrating because if Ian Gary finishes the fight inside the distance, it's profit. If Wei Li finishes the fight inside the distance, we're sitting really pretty. And if she finds a sub or Ian Gary finds a sub in any round, which he had that mounted guillotine as time expired in the third round, did Ian Gary, then we're way, way up on the night. So frustrating, went a little too heavy on some inside the distant props. But at the end of the day, not much hurt. It's slightly red, but it's nothing bad. So we move on to next week. That's all you can do.
Yeah, just part of the game. But looking forward to running it back next week. We got UFC Singapore next week. And that is an early card. But for now, we're going to recap UFC 292, go through all the fights, give our thoughts on them. We'll start with the main event, obviously the most influential fight of the night. And what a fight it was. The first round was like just feeling each other out. Looked like it was a good game plan from Sean, kept the distance. Sterling was just kind of leg kicking. Sean would throw some shots here or there, but he didn't want to open up too much. Going to round two, Aljo goes in for the takedown and leaves his head out there like he does a lot, and he got clipped for that right hand, goes out. Did you think it was an early stoppage, or do you think it was fair?
Look, I think Aljo wasn't, unconscious or, anything like that. He was still there, but he had every chance to get into a better position or, fight back, throw some up kicks, separate, pull him into anything like that. And at some point, the ref has to step in. I think somebody counted 17 unanswered shots. If you're taking 17 unanswered shots after getting face planted by a right hand, I don't see a problem with the stoppage whatsoever. Even though he's the champ and you want him to go out on his shield, Aljo wasn't really protesting too much about the stoppage. He was definitely rocked, definitely hurt. And Sean O'Malley, if you watch the replay, some of those follow-up shots, they were hammer fists. There was a few straight down the pipe, looking right down at Aljo that connected right on the chin that I'm surprised didn't put him out cold, which you could tell it hurt him even more. So, yeah, overall, not a bad stoppage in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty fair. I think it's just the fact that, Sean wouldn't jump on him to, hold him down. It was just boom, one after the other, but there's, a little bit of time delay in between them. That's okay, he's still there. And then he rolls over, takes a couple hard ones, and then rolls over. So it kind of looked like he was about to cover up more because he was taking him right on the face. And Goddard steps in. I think it was fine. Obviously, I was on the winning side, so I'm gonna pull for that. But what'd you think of the strategy from both guys?
Yeah, I expected Aljo to shoot earlier in the fight. I expected him to try to get to the legs and get the takedowns earlier, and he did. But at the same time, I think he wanted to prove that he can stand with Sean O'Malley, which is a bad idea looking back. And even in the locker room after the fight, he even said, you know, I got caught up trying to play his game or, you know, trying to stand with him on the feet. I should have just stuck to my game plan. Sean O'Malley, though, man, to stuff two of Aljo's takedowns when he was in kind of deep on the leg was pretty impressive to me because Aljo took Henry Cejudo down. Aljo takes basically everybody down he's fighting. Couldn't get O'Malley down. And then on the feet, man, he looks so good. You could tell his game plan was just to cut the angles he usually does, hit that teep kick up the middle, land some leg kicks, look for that right hand, and it paid off. But yeah, I think if Aljo goes in and does it again, he shoots from the beginning and just comes right across the cage and tries to get the fight to the ground. I think he's going to have big regrets that he didn't do that more.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I figured the longer the fight was on the feet, like the more chance that O'Malley's just going to have time to catch him with one. And that's exactly what we saw. And going into this fight, you know, everyone was saying it's such a bad matchup for Sean O'Malley because Aljo's grappling. But I looked at it. This is why I bet it. I looked at it like it's such a bad matchup for Sterling on the feet. Like he leaves so many openings, especially with his takedowns. When he shoots takedowns, he leaves his head out there so much. And, you know, I made the video about the knee up the middle. If you watch the way Aljo came in, he didn't have his head down low. He had it up pretty high. And that's why he caught him with that right hand. And it's funny because Aljo saw the video and he liked it.
Yeah.
And then he goes out there, he's shooting, you know, takedowns from a long ways away, which definitely has to do with the length. But then, you know, he's not throwing his head down by the knees. He's kind of leaving it up more, wanted to shoot towards the chest and get a body lock. Either way, gets knocked out. Yeah, I kind of saw that coming as far as like Aljo not shooting immediately. If you look at a lot of his fights, he just doesn't do that. Like the Petr Yan fight was like pretty much the exact same first round as the O'Malley fight. Didn't really shoot, just kind of feeling him out, leg kicking, bouncing around the outside. Sean was very disciplined in the way that he went about it. It's like he's going to wait for Aljo to make the mistake. And Aljo, I mean, gets a lot of hate, right?
Yeah.
Especially for the way he fights. Nobody, or I should say a few people like to watch the way that he fights. He goes in and tries to, you know, push the pace, and he gets caught. Ultimately, he's the one that started the fight, like going in for the takedown, and it cost him. So, yeah, good win for Sean. Interesting to see what happens next. Obviously, he called for Cheeto, which is like, so it's going to be such a shit show as far as like who gets title shots now. It's going to be all based on good matchups, kind of, or like you have to have an exciting style because ultimately O'Malley's going to have a good say in who he fights.
Right.
It's not going to be Marab. It's not going to be Henry Cejudo.
It's going to be a striker.
Yeah, it's not. It's probably not going to be Aljo for a rematch. Like Aljo wanted to go to 145, but now that he lost, he's like, yeah, maybe I want the rematch. No, buddy, you ain't getting that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. You're probably gonna have to go to 145. And I found it hilarious that he had the wherewithal or like the state of mind to after the fight to be like, all right, if Sean O'Malley's catching me like this, I don't know what Volk would do to me at 145. He's rethinking that a little bit. So yeah, I mean, respect to him. I always liked Aljo. I never really understood the hate. I think he was a good champ. But yeah, what do you think moving forward?
Yeah, moving forward, it's super interesting because it's still Sean O'Malley becomes champion and it's still the deepest division in the UFC. So there's so many possibilities. That top 10 is a bunch of killers. The Cheeto rematch is fun. The Aljo rematch eventually is probably going to happen if Aljo, I mean, you know, Aljo is going to rack up wins at bantamweight. I don't see him losing to many people still. Yeah. You know, if Marab keeps climbing, wins another 1 or 2 fights, that's there. You got cousin Umar coming up the ranks. Like there's so many possibilities for bantamweight right now. But, you know, Aljo was supposed to be one of the most dominant grapplers, and look what Sean O'Malley did to him. So to say Umar is going to wipe the floor with Sean or Marab's going to wipe the floor with Sean, I don't know how everybody's doubting him still. Like these guys coming up are going to beat Sean. Like what he did last night has to be one of the best performances in a title fight I mean, I've seen in a while. To come up as an underdog like that, plus 210, left no doubts whatsoever. I mean, came in, first round was close. Hard to tell who won the first round. And you flatline him, not flatline him, but you put him down face first in that second round and get the TKO finish. I mean, that is no doubt that you can't really argue with it. So I'm super excited to see what happens. I think it probably will be Cheeto next, just because Corey Sandhagen's out with an injury. There's some bad blood there. There's a decent storyline with him and Cheeto. I just wish Cheeto would have beat Corey Sandhagen. Then you'd have a no-brainer that you have to do that fight, because you lose to Corey like that. And then last night you beat Pedro Munez, and we'll talk about this fight soon. I mean, 30-27 was iffy to me. I don't know if Cheeto dominated the fight like that, but you didn't really, I don't know. That fight looked like a sparring match to me. I don't know. It didn't look impressive. So, yeah, it's super interesting. But for Sean, man, being with Tim Welch this whole time, coming up, he's the champ now. People doubted him just because the way he looks, the things he says on the internet. He seems, like a young kid still. I mean, the dude is for real from what we saw last night. So the bantamweight division is going to be fun for years now.
Yeah, it's so stacked, and the matchups that are going to be made in the future are certainly interesting. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Strawweight championship, Zhang Wei Li, absolute beatdown on Amanda Bosch. I had a feeling she was going to use the ground game. Didn't know she'd have that much success with it. Because she just got her down. She couldn't get back up. And Amanda Lemos was like looking for these weird chokes. I'm like, just get to your feet. Lady.
She was fast with that one, though. She locked that one in really fast.
Yeah, she must have saw something on that where she was looking for that. And the one in the first round, it looked interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But the angle just wasn't right, and she gets out of it. And then after that, it's like, all right, you're not gonna catch her with the same type of choke. You had your chance, and then it's pretty much done.
It'd be so hard to finish off your back too, the way she had it. So
you just don't have any leverage. But complete beatdown. One of the judges gave her round 4, which I thought Zhang Wei Li won every round, but one of the judges gave her round 4.
Crazy.
Interesting. That was without a doubt her best round, but she still got outstruck 28-13.
Right.
Got taken down. So I'm like, maybe you're just kind of granting her that at that point, but I don't know. Lemos, that big right hand is definitely something to be scared of, but if she's off her back, she can't do that. So good win for Wei Li, because that's a dangerous opponent, and she just
for sure
smoked her. What'd you think?
Yeah, Wei Li, we know, has good wrestling. Her control was phenomenal. She wasn't really passing into mount. She was trying. She's just not as long as Lemos. So when Lemos would get her knees involved, it was hard for Wei Li to pass into mount and stuff like that. But overall, man, controlled her for damn near the whole entire fight, landed some good ground and pound, was searching for finishes, just couldn't quite pull it off. And then she hits her with that right hand. Was it the 5th round?
Yeah,
I think it was the 5th round. Yeah. That was fast for being in the 5th round and having that much speed and power left after, a grappling, first 4 rounds are grappling. Impressive. Wei Li, we've all known she's great, but last night, she completely dominated Lemos, who's a dangerous, dangerous fighter, and just showed that she can stand with girls on the feet. But if you're dangerous and you have a chance to knock her out, kind of like Rose did, she's been working on that wrestling, and she'll get you to the ground. And once you're on the ground, she's hard to get up from under. So, yeah, props to her. I wish she would have finished it, but good performance.
Yeah, if you had an inside the distance ticket, you'd be fucking screaming at your TV.
That was me. Yeah,
that was wild. But I was more impressed with the ground and pound. She landed 96 ground strikes, and out of her 163, that's over half. That's tough to do on chicks that are that small that can scramble like that. You can't just use your weight and hold her down and punch on her. To land that many ground strikes is very impressive. For a girl it's not necessarily her go-to type fight, but yeah, very impressive. Ian Gary, Neil Magny, what'd you think of this one?
Man, I've been wrestling with the thought of, does Ian Gary's stock drop after that, or does it continue to go up? I'm sure in the grand scheme of things, he's obviously won the fight against the veteran guy who's ranked. It's going to go up, but you dropped him 6 times with leg kicks. 6 times. You didn't once try to follow up and finish the fight. You let him back up, and even when you would kick it and he's hopping on one leg, he just never really unleashed. He never really went for the kill until the end of the fight. So that was frustrating. Like I feel like taking Neil Magny on short notice, and you're talking this big game and all this trash talk and wanting to be the next Conor McGregor, you got to go out there and finish the dude. And you had him beat multiple times, in my opinion. You just never really pulled the trigger and really went for it. And I don't know why, because I don't think there was anything Magny at that point was going to throw at him that was going to hurt him, drop him, or finish him. I think Magny was fighting completely on survival instincts just to not get finished. He wasn't really throwing anything. He was just trying to stay safe and not get that leg kicks. And Ian Gary could have really poured it on him, and we just never really saw it. So kind of disappointed in that. Plus, I had him by submission, so seeing him get that mounted guillotine with 2 seconds left in the last round was super hard to watch. But I mean, overall, he dominated. I think we all probably expected that to happen. He is a really, really good fighter on the feet. He's just got to, I don't know, he's got to smell that blood in the water a little bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's really the thing that I dislike about his style. It's like it's so I don't want to say like conservative, but it's just like what are you doing? Like go finish the fight. I don't know what the problem is. Like the way he fights, it is super smart. I will say that. Like it is good to be. It's a good style to be active, to continue to be active, and it's a good style to win fights without taking a lot of damage. So there's that. But the way that he talks, it's like you kind of got to back that up with like some big finishes. And since he came into the UFC, he had that first round knockout against Jordan Williams. And then since then, 2 decisions, a third round knockout against Song Kanan. Like he barely knocked him out. Like he had 40 seconds left. He almost went to a decision with Song Kanan. He was like a minus 900 favorite. And then has the nice head kick knockout against Daniel Rodriguez. So to knock dudes out, he's got to hit you with a head kick. Like that's what we're looking at right now. And then he goes out there and dominates Neil Magny. Neil Magny looked like he didn't even want to be in the cage, but he still couldn't finish him. I'm like, I don't know what is going on here. Like, why can't Ian Gary just finish dudes consistently? Like he's clearly better than them. He clearly outstrikes them in every aspect. Like, what is going on here? Like, he just wants to be in there longer. I don't know what it is. I mean, you could look at it. The fight, his fights, you could definitely finish these guys. I don't know what's going on here. I'll just unleash something. Like, do something to get the crowd into it. The way he was acting, the way he was talking, it's like, bro, you can't go in there and then just like play with your food for 3 rounds. Like that just, I don't know. I want to say that it hurts him in the way for like the fans, which I think it kind of did based off of like the feedback I got from, the people that follow me and DM me. They were kind of upset with it too. But I don't know if that's just bettors that had him inside the distance like myself, or if it's like real fans that are like, all right, come on, man. Like, you should be able to finish this Neil Magny guy. I don't know. What do you think?
It's just like you watch the Song Kanan fight, and he got dropped early, and maybe that's why he was being a little more patient. But when he turned it on in the 3rd round to get the finish, he melted him. I mean, he melted the dude. Yeah. And that's it. He could do that to everybody at this level right now. And, outside the top, 5 guys in the division, he would melt dudes. If you smell blood in the water one time, like when he kicked Magny's leg that last time and Magny was wincing, literally hobbling on one leg up and down. If he puts that pressure he put on Kanan in that 3rd round, he absolutely melts him and finishes him. He just never did. So I don't know. I don't know if he was just trying to rack up octagon time or was having too much fun in there or what it is. But at some point you got to go for the finishes, because at the end of the day, finishes are king in this game. I mean, you get finishes, that's a great way to move up the ranks faster. You start knocking dudes out, especially Magny, a dude who's only been knocked out twice in the UFC out of his long career. I mean, that's a way to get your name, catapulted up the ranks a little bit faster. And he just kind of hesitant with the finish. I don't know. It is what it is. But, the finishing D-Rod, it's not like, it's a little different, right? Because he landed that one big shot that put him out. He didn't really have to work for that finish and just step on the gas and put it all on him. It was just a one-shot thing, and that'll happen too. But in these fights where he's got guys hurt, he's just got to go. He's got to put the foot on the gas.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. I was just like waiting the entire fight for him to like land that one shot that he likes to hit and then like follow it up with something. But every time he'd land one, he just stand there, look at him, like, dude, throw something.
Yep.
He just wouldn't do it. So honestly, I'm hoping one of these times he has a dude hurt, doesn't capitalize on it, and then he gets finished. So he learns a lesson. But for Neil Magny, how does this guy ever win fights? I'm honestly like, how does this guy win fights? I watched that fight. I'm like, this guy has no business being in there with any guy ranked. Like, I'm honestly wondering how he wins fights. Like, it's literally just hold him up against the cage at this point.
Yeah, he's bigger than people. A lot of times he's taller, longer, and he can use that. But yeah, other than that, man, he's just, I don't know. You know what you're getting with him. People are probably figuring him out by now. He's probably not going to get too many more wins in the UFC.
Probably not. Like, I get it with short notice, but that was bad.
Oh yeah.
Batista, Damon Blackshear. Speaking of short notice, my guy Damon Blackshear should have got the dub. I really think he took the first 2 rounds. I mean, you obviously saw 2 weight cuts in 7 days. Probably not going to have the best cardio. I wouldn't say fell off a cliff in round 3, but obviously lost round 3. I thought he took the first 2 rounds, outstruck him in both rounds, took him down in the first. He definitely got the first round, in my opinion. So that 30-27 from
unbelievable
for Mario Batista was like, bro, are you blind or something? Dude, Blackshear took him down 4 times, 2.5 minutes of control time, outstruck him by 10 strikes. Like, clearly won the first round. Round 2, a little bit closer, but I still thought Blackshear edged it. And then round 3, Bautista took it. But yeah, tough one for Blackshear. Goes in there as 2-1 dog, 7 days turnaround. Looked really good against a tough guy in Batista. I thought he should have got his hand raised. What'd you think?
Yeah, I thought he did enough too. I mean, it was a close couple of rounds, but I mean, he was definitely the guy that was inflicting the damage, in my opinion, the control, and being the aggressor. And I was really surprised to see that 30-27. I thought that was just absolutely insane. But for Damon Blackshear, he's so fun to watch because he's so good everywhere, and he's getting better everywhere. And DC on the mic last night during the fight said something. I was like, damn, that's so true. Is that Damon came into the UFC with some losses. He's a big prospect, a lot of people high on, but he already had some losses, some high-level losses. Took the draw, took a loss to guys like Basharat right off the bat. So, I mean, he has nothing really, he doesn't have an undefeated record. He doesn't have, got to worry about taking that first loss. Like, he's had his losses early in his career, and he's learned from them, and you can tell. And he's starting to put things together after the fact, and it's made him a lot more dangerous. So I love Blackshear for a 2-1 dog. And if you bet Blackshear, that was the right side 100%. Because plus 200, you have a guy that goes to decision, and a lot of people thought he won. Like, what more can you really ask for from a betting standpoint? Like, you're on the right side there. Sucks for sure because, he's going to become the first guy to win back-to-back weekends or 7 days at least. Would have been awesome, and I think he deserved it. So that sucked.
Yeah, that's an important thing, too, to look at. Like, if you're betting on these fights and you take a guy that's plus 200 and it comes down to a really close fight, you're clearly on the right side. If you're betting minus 200 and it's a super close fight, then you're like, all right, I got away with one there. If you get the win there, just in any fight, really, if you take the dog and it's pretty much a toss up, you're like, all right, I feel good about that bet, win or lose, moving forward. You're making the right reads. Marlon Vera, Pedro Munoz. This was another close one. We touched on it earlier. It was, these dudes have never been finished, never been knocked down. It's going to be tough to put either way. It's going to be tough to, do any significant damage to either guy. So that's why you see the big strike totals. And Pedro, it looked like he knew he had to come out and jump on him quick. Just the difference really comes down to the technicalities. Like, Cheeto had the reach. He's just bigger than Pedro Munoz. And the technicality striking, every time he hit him, it just looked like it hit him a little bit harder. And I don't want to say he looked like a lot better in the first round, but you could tell he was a little bit more cognizant of like, all right, I can't give up the first round completely. I just still think it was a close first round. I thought Pedro probably took round 2 as well, but all 3 rounds were fairly close. I think Cheeto definitely took the third, but the first two were close. I'm not too upset about the Cheeto win. 30-27 is a little questionable, but either way, he gets it done. What do you think?
Yeah, 30-27 is a little bit questionable, but at the end of the day, I think the judges got it right, so it doesn't matter too much. Yeah, in the first few rounds, it was kind of they were just kind of going shot for shot, and Cheetos were doing a little bit more damage. I think you could see it on the face, but the head was snapping back, just landing with a little more impact, and I think that's probably what swayed the judges in that area. But yeah, going forward, man, Cheeto, I wish he would have got the finish. It would have done a lot more for his argument to fight for the title next and all of that stuff. And he's such a fan favorite too. A Cheeto finish on a pay-per-view after losing a fight would have been phenomenal. Props to Pedro Munoz for not getting, put out by Cheeto. Yeah, overall, I thought it kind of looked like a sparring match, if I'm being honest. I wasn't super impressed on either side, but at the end of the day, Cheeto did enough to win. So probably going to get that title shot next.
Yeah, in hindsight, very big win for Cheeto to get that up there.
Can't lose there.
Yeah, no, that's a big win for him. And his style is kind of, I don't want to say boring to watch, but it's like uneventful. If he's sitting across the guy that he can't knock down, because like the big moments in Cheeto fights is when he gets knockdowns or when he knocks a guy out, because he's kind of flat-footed type striker, doesn't have a lot of big movement, very good jab, and he's going to wait to counter you. And this fight I thought was fairly boring. Like it's just back and forth, take one to throw one, and there it is. For a standing up fight with that many strikes, you would expect a little bit more. Kind of like the bantamweight fight for the Ultimate Fighter was a lot more exciting. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. Chris Weidman, Brad Tavares. Weidman make it at the distance. Didn't think he was going to make it there, but he got it. Definitely looked old. And Brad Tavares pulling the Ian Gary. Didn't want to, take any risks going for a finish, but got the win nonetheless. What'd you think?
Yeah, props to Weidman for hanging in there. And I thought the fight was going to get stopped by the leg kicks earlier, and we were sweating out that over 2.5 round free play that we put out for the double leg. It ended up cashing, but man, there was some moments in that fight where I thought Tavares was just going to kick that leg and Weidman was going to go down, and the ref was just going to say, I've seen enough. The guy's older. He's coming off a leg break. I don't want to watch this anymore. But Weidman's got that heart. But at this stage, I don't know. I just don't see what else is really left for him. He's got nothing else to prove. One thing during the fight, though, that I noticed, which surprised me that he did, is when he was in orthodox and he'd get his leg kicked out from under him, he'd switch to southpaw and he'd have a lot of success. Fighting out of southpaw, he was having way more success. And he takes that leg that was beat up out of danger. And then he'd switch back to orthodox and get the leg kicked again. I'm like, man, just stay in southpaw. You're backing him up against the cage with that lead jab with your right hand in southpaw. And then you would, do some good work up against the cage and land some decent shots. He just kept switching back and kept getting that leg kicked. And it was kind of tough to watch at times because Tavares was no mercy on those kicks. Yeah. Good performance by Tavares too. He needed that win just as bad. So yeah, props to him.
Yeah. You pretty much nailed it on the head there. Kind of a tough watch, but you like to see that when a dog still got the fight in him. He's getting the shit beat out of his legs and obviously the nasty leg injury, but he was still, marching forward, didn't quit. It looked like he was going to go down from those leg kicks, but he, stayed in it. He'd come back with some good flurries, shoot for a takedown. Didn't land a single one, but, hung in there. That's all. Yeah, that's all. Sure. And for the ref too, like for him to not stop that fight and kind of let him at least finish his last. Yeah. So let's be real, it's probably his last fight.
Yep.
Good to see. Gregory Rodriguez, Dennis Tululin. Was it illegal? Doesn't matter. That's probably what would have happened anyway. And Gregory Rodriguez gets the dub. What you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was like questionable, like the placing, but it's not like he intentionally, held down his head and aimed for that spot. Like he's just landing ground and pound at that point. And I thought it was the right decision to just let it go to be a KO/TKO.
Yeah,
but that's all. I mean, that's all really you could say about the fight. Good on Rodriguez for not even messing around on the feet. Got the takedown, did his thing. He knew he was light years better than Tululin on the ground game and a lot stronger too. So taking it down early and getting the finish, exactly what he had to do.
Yeah, I mean, if he fights like that against Tululan every time, he should probably be like minus 1,000.
Oh yeah.
But that unknown left him at minus 300. So,
Yep.
Kurt Holloway, Austin Hubbard. How in the world you lose to a 36-year-old who is 0-4 in the UFC? He comes out, gets the first round, looks decent enough to get the first round, and then he kind of gets his back taken. And then Holloway takes the back, goes and completely cheats walking the fence, and then gives him his arm. He's out. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this whole Ultimate Fighter of dudes that are like 36, it's like, what do you do now?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you do now? Sure. I mean, this is basically like your UFC gift, I guess, for making it through the time in the Ultimate Fighter. But what do you think?
Yeah, I honestly think like Kurt Holloway is one of those guys they threw on this season as kind of like a fill-in. Like, well, we need more veterans. Kurt Holloway might be up for this, and then he goes through and he beats everybody, and now he's the Ultimate Fighter. It's like 36 years old. Like, that's not really who the UFC is looking for. And after not having the best stint your first time in the UFC, like you're like one loss away from being cut again. Like realistically, like there's not much left for him. So yeah, I think Hubbard. The one reason I almost took Kurt Holloway, which I wish I would have now, obviously, was because he is a finisher. Like he finishes fights, and Hubbard just has a good game plan usually and can go out there and outpoint guys. But Holloway just caught him there, and props to him for doing so. But I was thinking Hubbard was just going to walk to a decision in this fight. Didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, even if Hubbard wins, it's like the dude literally just gets decision wins, and they're not pretty at all. So it's like the UFC probably doesn't want him around either. But there's that. Brad Katona, Cody Gibson. Now this was a fun fight.
That was a fun fight.
I mean, Cody Gibson came out like a ball of fire and put it on him in the first round. I thought he clearly won the first round. Go to round two, it's pretty much the same pace, and I thought Cody Gibson probably took round two. Go to round three, Cody's tired. Brad Katona takes over, takes round three. We go to decision, unanimous, 29-28 on two of the judges' scorecards, 30-27 on Chris Lee's scorecard for Brad Katona. And I disagree especially with the 30-27. 29-28, it's like, sure. But tough one for Cody Gibson because you could tell he came out there looking for a finish, but Brad Katona is just so damn durable. Like the dude just could get hit with a baseball bat, and he's like, doesn't care. He just keeps coming forward. So props to Brad for being tough and getting the second Ultimate Fighter championship title there. What do you think?
Yep. Yeah. So I think on the preview show, I talked to you about Cody Gibson having some bad blood with Brad Katona and being frustrated with him and visibly upset, and maybe he's going to fight too emotional. And it seemed like he might have, because he came out there looking for a finish. There was times he was off balance on his strikes, didn't look that technical, was overextending and almost falling to the ground. And Katona is a guy who's just going to stay steady the whole entire fight. He'll fight you on the feet. He'll, try to counter you and take a shot to give a shot, and then he'll look for the wrestling and mix it in. And he just did that against Cody Gibson. And Cody Gibson, I thought, looked really good early. And in the second round, he kind of started to fade. And then by the third round, he just didn't have his hands up at all and was just eating every single shot. So props for Brad to stick in there. I think he was stunned a few times. Like Cody Gibson hit him with some good shots. He just stayed calm and composed, marched forward, kept doing his thing, and then just took over the fight. So impressive to win the Ultimate Fighter 2 times. Stylistically, though, he's not like he was in a fun fight with Cody Gibson. Don't get me wrong. He's not going to have many of those. Like Brad Katona is not a guy who is going to be in a lot of barn burners. So yeah, that's all I got on that one.
Yeah, super exciting fight. But I think if Cody if he didn't fight as aggressive as he does, I think he could probably win the fight by decision too. It's like he has such a length advantage in that fight, but he just continued to walk him down, and Brad Katona could hit him because he's walking him down. And if Cody, used his length a little bit more on the feet, I think he probably wins that. It looked good in the first round because the movement was good enough to get out of range. But then once you get tired, you stop getting out of range after you throw, you start getting caught. That's exactly what happened. That's why he lost. Andre Petrosky, Gerald Mearshart. This is one that, if you're on the Petrosky side, you're probably looking at it as a bad bet. even though he won, because it was a close fight. Round 1 was close. Round 2 goes to Petrosky, nearly finishes him. Mearshart takes round 3. Comes down to round 1, and 2 of the judges had a Petrosky. What'd you think of it?
It is almost time to fade Andre Petrosky. I mean, he was getting hit. He was getting hit clean a few times by GM3.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, not many guys go in there and start getting a little wobbled and stunned by GM3. And I thought his gas tank didn't look very good, especially late in the fight. GM3 really put the pressure on and landed some good combos, and on the ground looked good at the end of the fight. And Petrosky just didn't look like himself for some reason. Like, he didn't look dominant. He didn't look like he was, first of all, at the beginning of the fight, he was just throwing everything he had into every shot. I think he was trying to mimic what Joe Pyfer did. You know, they train at the same place and stuff. So, yeah, I'm not too high on Petrosky. It was a questionable decision, I guess. Like, could have gone either way. Like, GM3 definitely had his moments in the fight too. I do think Petrosky won the first 2, but it was definitely close at times. So overall, man, my takeaway is Petrosky, there's going to come a time where you're going to want to fade him, especially if he's going to be another big favorite.
Yeah, I mean, he made Gerald Mearshart look like a world-class boxer.
Yeah.
Like in the first round with the head movement. Like, he was throwing bombs just expecting Gerald Mearshart's head to be there. And I don't know. It looks really bad, honestly. Like, he probably won that fight just based off of aggression, because the first round he was just being the aggressor. He was swinging and missing. But I mean, it looks good enough to the judges that he's like throwing hard bombs. So when he does connect, they probably look at that like he's hitting them hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, Petrosky still stuck with the Bo Nickel call out, which is like, I don't know, man. You probably don't want the Bo Nickel at this point. You probably got to go figure out those hands a little bit better going forward, and the gas tank, because that fell off a cliff in round 3, as
for sure
we kind of expected. Andrea Lee, Natalia Silva. This was a one-sided affair as well. Andrea Lee never got going. Natalia Silva just pieced her up from the outside. It looked to me like Andrea Lee must have been pissed off against her boy Tony Kelly in the corner, man. Something, and this was her revenge, because she just wasn't doing anything. Like, the corner was giving her the advice, like, you got to do something other than what you're doing. She just kept doing it. Just stay at range, and I'll take some kicks to the face. What you think?
Yeah, I think she was shocked at the speed and the power of Silva, because the first round Silva had her hurt and caught her with a clean left high kick. And Andrea Lee averages a couple takedowns a fight. She's a decent grappler when she does get on top. She just never looked to try to take it there, really. And she just became a punching bag in this fight. I think she thought, like, she does have credentials in striking with like Golden Glove boxing and stuff like that. But I mean, you could just tell levels. There was levels and levels between these two. On Natalia Silva's side, super impressed. I mean, I was super impressed with her ability to keep that pace for 3 rounds, her accuracy, her composure, everything. She never rushed in and tried to do anything crazy. She just picked her apart for 3 rounds straight. And for Andrea Lee, man, human punching bag last night. Don't know what's next for her, but Natalia Silva's got a pretty bright future.
Yeah, it was just clear who was the better athlete at that
point. For sure.
Andrea Lee, this huge speed disadvantage for Andrea Lee, and she just got caught with everything. Every time she tried to throw something, she'd get countered, bang, bang, bang. And then that probably just scared her off from ever engaging.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, fuck this. I'm going to ride out this 15 minutes and get paid.
Yeah.
Karine Silva, Marina Moroz. Silva getting the round 1 sub with 1 second left via guillotine choke. This was the biggest play on the card for me. I mean, rarely do you go that hard on a women's MMA, but I had a good feeling about this one. Karine Silva got the under 2.5 as well. I was happy about it. What a way to start off the card. I was happy. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, I could see why people took Moroz. She's beat Silva before. She does have, a decently well-rounded game. The thing that scared me off was the layoff she's been on and what she's been doing outside the UFC and Octagon. Like, doesn't seem like she's as focused on fighting anymore, whereas Karine Silva is here to make a name for herself. Yeah. And, getting the round 1 finish, she made her tap with 1 second left on the, all you have to do is hang on for, 1 second, you get to the second round. Thank God she didn't. Like you said, biggest play on the card. We had Karine Silva money line, also had the under 2.5 that hit with ease. Silva, when she gets on top of you, is so strong. and it's going to take her far, I think, because in women's MMA, especially in this division, if you can get a takedown, you're going to have success if you have a good top game, which she does. So I like her.
Yeah, I mean, I was behind Silva basically because she's going out there and getting girls out of there in the first round or second round, and Marina Moreau's only win in the last 3 years is to Agapova, who's no longer in the UFC. So it's like I felt it was a no-brainer. I thought Silva should have been a bigger favorite, and I'm glad I took her. But that is the recap for UFC 292. And we'll look forward to the Contender Series on Tuesday, and then we got UFC Singapore on Saturday. So stay tuned for those videos moving forward. If you're watching here, hit the subscription button, drop a like to support the channel, and stay tuned for the Contender Series preview. Should be out shortly after this, and we'll get you our picks. But you can stay up to date with everything at the Double Leg on Instagram, at HeyJoyPicks on the medias. For me, where can they find you?
On all social medias at the Parlay MMA.
And as always, if you want to get in on the premium membership, the link is in the description below. The Contender Series picks will be free, though, so just stay tuned for that. The Double Leg here, signing out.